Let me ask you a question. Have you ever tried to stop a marriage? It's pretty hard to do, but that is exactly what the Ethereum community is trying to do for the Ethereum marriage, or the merge, to TRM Labs. Now the date for this marriage has already been announced, September 15th, in which Ethereum is going to migrate away from proof of work and merge into a proof of stake blockchain in which it will cease to exist as you know it, much like most people do when they get married. And the reason for this is because it is at that point going to be almost completely controlled and regulated by the government. And also I'm going to explain how you can profit from the merge in which some people are buying hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Ethereum. I'll go over the strategy and why people are doing this. So there are a lot of concerns about this, and it comes at the time when Tornado Cash was just recently banned, and there's a lot of regulation in place in which now the Ethereum community is realizing that hey, maybe Bitcoin was right all along. And so here's the problem. Once Ethereum migrates to proof of stake, well, it turns out that all of these proof-of-stake validators are easily centralized and can be easily regulated. Over 66% of the beacon chain validators will have to adhere to OFAC regulations and compliance. So you've got Lido Finance, Coinbase, Kraken, Staked US, Bitcoin, Swiss AG, and all of these are just, they have to follow the rules. And so we have a situation here where there can be a potential 51% majority attack on the Ethereum at the protocol level where the government can regulate and control the entire blockchain. They can say, for example, hey, we don't want you to process any blockchain transactions that involve certain addresses or that interact with Tornado Cash or any type of protocol they choose. Essentially, the government will own the Ethereum blockchain at that protocol level, which completely defeats the purpose of decentralization, because these large companies, do you think they'll actually say no to the government when they receive a letter from TRM Labs or whatever asking them to sanction certain addresses or protocols? You can see a tweet here from the CEO of Coinbase who says, well, sanctioning a technology seems like a bad precedent and it should probably be challenged, but you know what, we're always going to follow the law. But still, kudos to him for even making a statement on this, because a lot of the Ethereum community have remained silent or divided on this, because there's even this conflict of interest where in the short term people want the merge to go through, but in the long term it can be pretty bad for decentralization. And so somebody even posed this question for those large corporate entities that are validating Ethereum 2.0. Well, if regulators asked you to censor Ethereum at the protocol level, would you A, choose to comply, or would you shut down the validator nodes, removing your voting power in order to protect the decentralization of the system? Now, for what it's worth, Vitalik Buterin, billionaire, voted that he would just shut down the nodes. And what this really means is that in order to prevent the government from simply confiscating those validator nodes, you need to burn the stake. And in that option, you would consider the censorship an attack on Ethereum itself and burn the stake via social consensus, because once the merge is complete, it's basically checkmate in favor of the government. Because now for you to try to protect the decentralization of Ethereum, you have to burn the same Ethereum that you've been putting in. You just have to burn your own money to try to protect the system. And this is just a problem that proof of work doesn't currently have. Once you get into proof of stake, it's a centralization problem that's simply getting worse with more regulations and sanctions coming in. And speaking of sanctions, there was actually this hilarious GitHub code pull request where somebody wanted to extend sanctions even more, noting that, well, the current endpoint doesn't go far enough in sanctioning bad people and bad addresses, as this only covers one region of the world, that being the USA. And he says, well, the world is much larger, and we should account for all possible sanctions in every corner of the globe, not just one country. And so if you check his code, he now added the UK sanctions list, in which he's now blacklisting a whole bunch more wallet addresses based on the UK government blacklists. Now, people started arguing over this. Somebody notes, good job, the worse the better. Let's just ban all addresses and contracts. If everything's banned, then no illegal activity can occur. And then somebody just closed this pull request altogether, noting, well, this isn't helpful for obvious reasons. But the discussions continue because the original author notes, well, these are valid sanctions as referenced in gov.uk links. The addresses are officially sanctioned by the UK government. It's a well-presented pull request, includes tests, and the code quality matches that of the existing code, so what's the problem? Let's get it approved, you guys. As the tech lead, I'd approve it. Put in the code, let's put in all of the sanctions. I would sanction everything, ban all of the addresses. Now, in addition, there's been some concerning movement from one of the Ethereum whales who just transferred 145,000 ETH, about $300 million worth of Ethereum. And this is pretty ancient Ethereum from the Genesis days. About 7-year-old dormant Ethereum. Now, this movement may indicate either nothing, or who knows, maybe this whale could be at philosophical odds with the Ethereum proof of stake merge. Maybe they're concerned and this could indicate massive selling pressure coming in. But is that selling pressure really coming? So we're going to talk about how you can now actually profit from the merge. And again, that merge is scheduled to come in September 15th. But the first thing to understand is that Ethereum is actually going to hard fork into the proof of stake chain, but the original proof of work chain is still actually going to exist because there's going to be some stubborn miners out there who are going to continue powering that chain. And so what people are anticipating here is that the assets on Ethereum are going to be doubled. That's right, all of the NFTs, the tokens, everything is going to be hard forked and therefore cloned and doubled. So you're going to have two blockchains, but you need to position yourself properly in order to take advantage of this potential opportunity. So here's how it's going to go down. BitMEX has a pretty good article on the whole process actually, but one of the large Ethereum miners, Chandler Guo, announced that he's going to continue powering Ethereum proof of work because you've got all these Ethereum miners with their machines. They don't want the merge, right? They're being left out in the code. So they got these machines, they're going to continue running them and just see what more they can milk out of that whole process. Now, it's not that simple because on a technical level, Vitalik Buterin anticipated some miners may continue trying to keep the old blockchain alive, so they implemented something known as the Ethereum Ice Age, which just makes the transaction times get longer and longer. The next one's going to be September 15th, so that's why they chose this date for the merge, but with this Ice Age, the blockchain basically becomes unusable. So what the miners are doing is to get around this, they are going to hard fork Ethereum into a new blockchain known as ETHW, in which they already have a GitHub repository here where they're going to disable that time difficulty bomb, the Ice Age, making the entire blockchain usable again. So you can follow their progress here. Obviously not very popular at all with the Ethereum community, but you know, there's already been some people like Justin Sun's Poloniex exchange, which announced they will actually be supporting this proof of work blockchain. So it remains to be seen whether this is going to be viable or not. It may be short-lived or it can continue living for a very long time. But let's say you want to take advantage of this potential doubling of assets. You need to understand which assets to get into. So in this article, they noted USDC tokens, you don't want to hold that because it's going to be worthless. Circle, the company that issues those, will only honor the proof of stake version. Similarly, USDT, Tether, you don't want that. Wrapped Bitcoin also is going to be worthless on the proof of work chain because the custodians, the issuing authorities, are not going to honor redemptions of wrapped Bitcoins from the proof of work blockchain. And interestingly, staked ETH is also going to be completely worthless from the proof of work chain because in that version of blockchain, the merge never happens and the staked Ether basically becomes worthless. And arguably most of the other tokens probably going to be worthless on the proof of work chain as they migrate over to proof of stake. And one thing to note is Chainlink, which powers a lot of the prices for these DeFi apps, announced they're not going to be supporting proof of work. So a lot of these smart contracts and apps, they're just going to break, implode. There's going to be chaos everywhere. You basically have to start from scratch, rebuilding these, ascribing meaning and value to these tokens and protocols. But one thing that will continue to have value through all of this may be Ethereum itself, because hey, it's still going to be this fully functioning blockchain. You need gas tokens for it if you want to use it, and it's going to be decentralized because the proof of stake version of Ethereum is going to be totally centralized and controlled by regulatory authorities. So if you're looking for that decentralized smart contract blockchain, well, this may be the only game in town, and rebuilding these smart contracts or relaunching these Web3 apps probably isn't going to be too difficult because we already have the source code. It's all open source. All you have to do is fork it. Now, there's still a possibility that this chain is going to just die very quickly and nothing will come of it because a lot of people don't want to support it. But if it manages to stay alive, you can play on this opportunity. So there's a lot of ways you can play on this strategy, but one way is you can go to a lending protocol website like say Aave, and you want to deposit the worthless tokens as your collateral. So we're talking about USDC, Tether, wrapped Bitcoins, any of these things, and then you borrow Ethereum. And through this technique, you're essentially going long on Ethereum and you're giving them worthless tokens as your collateral. So a lot of people have already been executing the strategy. We can see that the borrow rate for Ethereum has just been going up in anticipation of the merge. After the merge, all of your collateral would basically be liquidated. It would become worthless, but you got to borrow a bunch of free Ethereum, and you know, the Ethereum is going to go down in price a lot on the proof of work chain. A lot of people aren't going to want it, but even if it retains say 1% of its value, it's still free money. 1% is still pretty decent there. You got a free 1% there. And who knows, maybe it'll even be more than that. And by the way, if this is all sounding a little bit foreign to you or you want to understand DeFi a little bit better, check out my program, DeFiPro.dev, where I'll teach you all about decentralized finance. Probably the best course on DeFi. A lot of people have been really happy with the course, earn some passive income out there, learn DeFi the right way. I'll get you set up. Check it out, DeFiPro.dev. Now, what's going to happen between now and the merge? Well, personally, I think there's going to be a lot of euphoria. There's going to be a lot of news and hype, and it's going to go through this media cycle that Ethereum is merging, and a lot of people are going to get sucked into this hype. Not to mention, if you believe this narrative, then a lot of people are going to be acquiring Ethereum in the hopes that it's going to double in value with the merge. So people may be converting their tokens, acquiring Ethereum because on the proof of work chain, Ethereum will be the only thing that has any value at all, most likely. And quite likely, there's going to be a lot of debate and controversy about the merge, but I think that the centralizing authorities will find a way to push this through. There's just too much money on the line for the merge not to go through. Now, if you ask me, here's my personal opinion. Ethereum proof of stake probably is ultimately going to be owned by the government, and it's going to be this regulated version of blockchain, just totally compliant, OFAC compliant, maybe it'll even be KYC'd by the government, and it may not have any privacy, acting more like an extension of the US dollar, of the fiat system, kind of like a digital dollar, and there may still be value in that, right? Like venture capitalist-backed companies are going to be willing to build on this and just know that they're in full regulatory compliance. But that still leaves a gap in the market for a decentralized smart contract protocol. And the other blockchains like Avalanche, Binance Smart Chain, Phantom, unfortunately they're not decentralized enough, so there may still be a need for the original Ethereum proof of work blockchain. And then if you're looking for decentralized currency, maybe that's where Bitcoin comes in. Ethereum belongs to the US government, Bitcoin belongs to the world. But that'll do it for me. Let me know, what are your thoughts on the merge? Should Ethereum merge or not? See you in the comments below. If you liked the video, give a like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Thanks, bye.